Hello and welcome! It is Vintage Super League time once again. I'm Randy Bueller, joined by our current playoff leader, Oliver Tew. How are things going?
Oh, pretty good. Can't complain.
3-0 last week. Certainly can't complain about that one.
Yeah, for sure. The deck is just absurdly good.
Mentor in particular. Yeah, it's an easy game, right? You just play the blue cards that Luis told you were good, show up and crush everybody with Mentor. No problem.
Basically, yeah. The cards do all the work. It's so good.
You've played every single round has been Mentor, right? I'm not forgetting anything?
Yep, I've played Mentor in every single possible scenario.
Got you through the play-in, got you into the winners group, got you into the playoffs, and so far, 3-0 in the playoffs. The way our playoff format works, in case you haven't been following along, it's double round robin. So we've got 4 players in the playoffs. Oliver is one of them. Everybody played everybody last week. Oliver beat Eric Froelich. He beat Paul Rietzel. He beat Rodrigo Tagores. Oliver sits at 3-0. But everybody is still alive. In theory, even Rodrigo Tagores, who has 3 thumbs down on the scoreboard right now at 0-3, is still technically alive. Although for Rodrigo to come back, he's going to have to 3-0, and he's going to have to hope for the 4-way tie where everyone is 3-3. If that happens, tiebreaker magic. We just play more magic. More realistically, though, it's probably Eric you're worried about, Oliver? Only one match behind you?
Yeah, Eric is definitely fierce competition, but you can't count out Paul. Paul is a very good player and could easily come back, even though he started off a little slow. So just hoping to do well in my rounds. Can't really lock it up yet.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun night. Either way, we're going to have 6 matches of Vintage for you. I do have the match between Oliver and Eric seems like the most likely one to have the title on the line. So we'll build up to that. We'll have that one sitting last. Eric does currently control his own destiny. So he's a match behind at 2-1. But if he 3-0s, that means Oliver had picked up at least 1 loss. And maybe we'll have a tiebreaker match. Maybe Oliver and Eric will have to run it back. There are no tiebreakers on the line tonight. I don't care what, game win percentage, match win. None of that is going to matter. If there's a tie on record, we're just going to keep playing. If we get a 3-way tie, somebody will have to get a bye. That'll be, lucky for them. But we will be playing Magic until we crown a winner tonight. Oliver, certainly the man in the clubhouse with the current lead. Now, did you think much about the decks that these guys were going to bring this week? I know you got to see what they brought last week. I don't know if that affected your deck choice or sideboard choice or any customizations. I'm curious what your thinking is about the other competitors and what they're going to bring to the table this week.
Honestly, metagaming with these 3 other people is so difficult that I didn't even try that much. I figured someone might play Dredge because everyone seems to be a little lacking in Dredge hate, so it could be a good choice. So I packed a little bit more of that. That's about the only change I made because all 3 of these guys could be playing anything. There's no predicting.
That's a fair point. You're probably the easiest guy to predict here.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe you're going to change it up on us, but I don't know that I'd be betting on that. I have not seen the list, by the way. I'm guessing right alongside Oliver. But yeah, Eric's range is super wide. Paul's range goes kind of off the deep end sometimes. And Rodrigo's probably the guy who's played the format the most, and he's had success with just about everything. Yeah, fair enough. Our first match up is going to be Eric against Rodrigo. So we're going to be getting them set up, get their hand cams put together. But meanwhile, I do want to talk a little bit about the next Super League. I know I promised you guys last week we were going to talk about what's next. We announced it on Twitter earlier today, but Team Draft Super League is the next project we've got put together. Yeah, I am super excited about this. I mean, Vintage has been fun, and getting the Vintage Super League up and running has been amazing. But Team Draft Super League is something that I think can just be spectacular. I think teams are awesome, and drafts are awesome, and Super Leagues are awesome. So I haven't been this excited since we did the very first Vintage Super League. I mean, in particular, you see the Patreon link down there. The current status of this is we're hoping that you guys will support this league and that we can get enough backing from Patreon or sponsors or Wizards in order to launch this league. We're currently looking at the middle of May. We'd like to start the league 2 days after Pro Tour Amonkhet. And I've already got some just sweet teams who've expressed interest in this. So I know you were talking about this on Twitter. You and I both spent some time replying to tweets and talking about this, Oliver. I don't know how much team draft, how many side drafts you've gotten yourself sucked into in your short Pro Tour career, but it's definitely one of the highlights of the Pro Tour for forever is just the sort of trash talk, the bragging rights on the line. It's not the Pro Tour itself, but it feels like, sometimes it feels even more fun than the Pro Tour itself, those side draft circuit.
Yeah, this seems awesome. I'm really looking forward to this. Even if I don't play in it, I'll definitely be watching in it. Like you were saying, team drafts at the Pro Tour are like a whole different thing. Like I've done team drafts before I started playing on the Pro Tour, just with people at my card shop and stuff. Sure. But once you get on the Pro Tour, you just see these team drafts with multiple Hall of Famers, multiple Pro Tour top 8ers. It's just absurd, the level of good play at these team drafts. And this Super League seems like it's going to be replicating that, and that's awesome to be able to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I remember before I ever played on the Pro Tour, I read an article by a guy named Brian Hacker, who some of you old timers probably remember Brian. He's got a couple Pro Tour top 8s. He's one of the first guys who actually sort of figured out how to beat down Unlimited. Quite frankly, when the Mirage block first came out, we were used to playing draft in Ice Age, where like a 1-power evasion creature for 3 mana was about as aggressive as you could get. Anyway, Hacker wrote this article on the new pool halls, the pool halls of Magic, and just kind of painted a picture of the Pro Tour circuit. People essentially would fly home on Monday so they could stay up all night Sunday night just drafting against each other. It's gotten a little easier to find a draft since Magic Online has come out, and so you don't necessarily see quite the late night, oh my God, we get to draft against other pros that we used to see back in the 90s and the early 2000s. But still, I think a highlight of any event when you get those good teams just playing to play, playing for fun, playing for bragging rights.
Yeah, for sure. It's also a very skill-intensive format, so I expect to see a lot of high-level play, and it's going to be very interesting to watch because a lot of these people are very experienced drafters. You get to watch people that have done hundreds and hundreds of drafts between their teams in action, and it'll be an awesome experience.
Yeah, that's a great point. We are going to be doing 3v3 team booster draft. So this is the format used at the top 4 of Team Limited Grand Prix nowadays, and it has been the side draft format of choice basically forever. Teams will sit every other person around the table, and this is not natively supported in Magic Online, but I've been talking with the guys at WotC, and Wizards is interested in helping make this a reality. So essentially, the way we're going to make it work is if we set up a 6-person event with slow draft settings, WotC will give us that event, and then essentially I can log in, see where the accounts have gotten seeded, and then quickly tell everybody which account to log in with. So we are going to be able to do the every other seeding that you would expect from a team draft, even though it's not natively supported. We've got to work around to make that work. But then when you've got that, when you're sitting next to a teammate, you get all these cool dynamics where, you know what? It's okay to go 1 and 2 if you pass an 0-3 deck. And don't tell me that you went 2 and 1, you did your job if you passed a 3-0. Like, it is a zero-sum game, and those dynamics are super different and super interesting.
Yeah, I think one huge perk about doing this on Magic Online is we're going to be able to see the entire draft. We get to see every pick, and since this is team draft, like you were saying, it's a lot different than a regular 8-man draft in terms of the drafting process. You don't want to draft, or you don't want to pass any super unbeatable bombs, even if it's not in your colors. So being able to see all that in action should be cool.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. A lot of this came out of a conversation after the Magic Online Championships, where Athena and I had run the stream there, and we put together the limited rounds. And limited has this knock that it's hard to follow, or that it's not as spectator friendly. And I think that comes at the Grand Prix level or the Pro Tour level, where it's just hard to see what's going on. But when you do it on Magic Online, like the Magic Online Championships, you can see every pick they're making in the draft. You can see exactly what they've drafted before and just see exactly what they're thinking. And then having the cards in hand lets you see where all the gameplay is, because so much of the gameplay in Limited is about, oh, he's got this in his hand. What is he playing around? What is he representing? How is he using this actual hand? Not that the deck has some overarching strategy like in Constructed, where it kind of plays the same way a lot. It's more, no, here's this random thing. The guy's got to figure it out right now. How does he handle this hand? So I was struck by, the viewing numbers for Magic Online Championships were just as high for Limited. They're actually higher for Limited on day 1 and similar on day 2. So I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that this is the kind of format where Limited can actually get its day in the sun. We can actually see what a lot of the best drafters in the world do with it.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, and if you go to the Patreon, by the way, I did put a list up of some of the teams that have already reached out. PGO has expressed interest. Owen was at Magic Online Champs. He was one of the guys I was talking to who seemed excited about it. The guy who I think is most rooting for this league to work might be Marshall Sutcliffe, because the man loves him a booster draft. And he just gets like, really? We could do a booster draft event? You think people are going to want to watch? Like, yes, Marshall, this is going to be awesome. So he's got a squad. He's going to team with Kenji and with Paul Cheon.
That's an awesome squad.
That is such a good team.
Yeah.
Luis is going to play with Ben Stark and Eric Froelich, and the teams are coming together. I mean, we may get so many good teams that I have to work out some kind of play-in rather than be forced to cut anybody. But we'll sort that out, assuming the thing gets funded, which we're well on our way. I mean, it's only been up a couple hours, and things are going great. But we're here tonight to talk about Vintage. Sounds like our first-round match is ready, so let's get down to the action.